Ooh, it's hot. Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel, and today we're going to be kind of doing a bit of a mix of a couple of popular booktube videos, and that's the 5-star predictions and like tier ranking. So I'm merging the two. I got this idea off of Ripley Reads' channel. I'll link her down below. And she kind of went through her physical TBR to see what books she would kind of predict as 5 stars and kind of rank where the rest of them will kind of sit opposed to that. So that's what I'm going to do today. I don't actually have very many books on my physical TBR. I have a lot of books I want to read, but I don't personally own them. I actually only currently have 18 books on my physical TBR, which I think is pretty good for a booktuber, although I'm a new booktuber, and I'm sure as I continue watching booktube and creating content for you guys, my TBR is only going to grow like most people. But currently I only have 18 books on my TBR, which is actually quite good. And I'm reading one of them now, which is Clap When You Land by Elizabeth Acevedo. That is on the ranking system, and so I feel like I'll predict that one quite correctly. And I thought it'd be quite fun to come back once I've read them all and kind of re-watch this video and see if I was right about any of the predictions. So that's kind of what we're going to do today. Without further ado, let's jump into it. Okay, so I'm going to screen record my laptop. My laptop's just off to the side here, which is while I'll kind of be talking in that direction for some of the video. So without kind of further ado, let's get started. Sorry, my window's open because it's like 30 degrees in the UK today, so I'm very sorry if you can hear any background noise. But the first book that we're starting with is Anybody Out There by Marian Keyes. Now, if you've seen one of my most recent reading vlogs where I reread the books that got me into reading, you'll know that I reread one of Marian Keyes' books, Angels, and I wasn't a huge fan of it. Anybody Out There is part of the same series. Now, having reread Angels, I'm kind of skeptical on whether I even want to read this book. So, off personal instinct, I think I would rate this book similar to Angels. I gave Angels a 2-star. So I'm going to put Anybody Out There in the 2-star range, although I don't think I'll end up actually ever reading it just because Angels left a very bad taste in my mouth. So I don't think that is going to be a book for me, and I might end up unhauling it eventually. We will see. But a 2-star for that one, I think, predicting wise. The next book we have here is one of my most recent purchases, and that's An Absolutely Remarkable Thing by Hank Green. I haven't read any John Green books. I haven't read any Hank Green books. I don't even really know what this one is about, but I've heard good things about it. I know Maddie from Book Browsing Blog really enjoys this book as well. And if the blurb is as good as the book kind of makes it seem, I think this could be a 4-star book. It sounds pretty cool. It's basically about a girl called April who one night finds a sculpture disappearing in her town. She creates a quick YouTube video about it and posts it online, and when she wakes up in the morning she becomes a YouTube sensation. So if that's anything to go by, I think I'd end up really enjoying it. I think it's a mix of like futuristic contemporary, which kind of sounds quite cool. Obviously, I'm a contemporary lover. I read a lot of romance contemporaries and like just fiction contemporary in general. So I kind of like to find subgenres of contemporary to read, and this definitely sounds like it's a subgenre. So I'm very excited for this one, and I think if I like it as much as everyone else, I think it might be a 4-star. The next book I have is On the Other Side by Carrie Hope Fletcher. I adore the Fletchers. If you didn't know, Giovanna Fletcher is one of my favourite authors of all time, and she has written one of my favourite books of all time, Billy and Me. And I love her husband's books as well, Tom Fletcher. He's part of McFly, and he writes middle grade and children's books, and I absolutely adore his middle grade fiction. So if it's anything to go by, I think I just enjoy Fletcher writing. So I would anticipate On the Other Side being about a 3-star. I'm quite stingy when it comes to 4 and 5 stars. I tend to give most books I read an average of 3 stars because I enjoyed it and I don't really have further thoughts on it. And I think this book might come under that category. So I'm going to put it in the 3 stars. On the Other Side is about an old woman who is on her kind of like deathbed, but as she like passes over to heaven and like opens her door to heaven as such, She opens a door back to her past self when she was 27 years old, and I kind of think the story kind of tells a tale of when she was 27 and how her life was leading up to the day that she died, which kind of is like a cool twist on death, if that even kind of sounds interesting. And I actually think it sounds quite good, but I'm not sure if I like Carrie Hope Fletcher's writing, so I'm going to leave it at a 3-star. Now the next book we have is We Are Okay by Nina LaCour, and I've actually tried to read this book multiple times now and I just can't get into it. I always get about 30-40 pages in and kind of just be like, meh. So if I ever read this book, it's still on my physical TBR, but I'm just never eager to pick it up. But if I did ever pick it up, I don't think it's the book for me, so I think I would be putting it at like a 2-star. I would be really intrigued to see if it was more though. I'm never interested in picking it up, and it's just kind of sat on my TBR, and the only reason I'm keeping it is because the cover is pretty. So yeah, we will see on that one. The next one is The Unexpected Everything by Morgan Matson. Now Morgan Matson is a massive author in the booktube community. She was really popular a few years back and she's kind of dwindled down a bit now. And one of my favourite books of all time is Second Chance Summer by Morgan Matson. But I've never been a massive fan of all her other books, and I do think they're a bit big and long-winded for contemporaries. And I'm just, once again, I've never been interested in picking it up. I have tried to read it once and I just couldn't get into it. So if anything, I would read it over the summer, and it'd be like a cute summer romance. It'd be forgettable and I'd just kind of leave it at that. So on that note, I would kind of give it like a 3-star. But once again, I'm just not interested in picking up, so who knows if I'll ever be able to rate it properly. The next book we have on this list is The Start of Me and You by Emery Lord. This is actually on my TBR for this month, because if you haven't seen my August TBR, this is the prompt for boyfriend pick. My boyfriend picked this one up. This is a book that has been on my TBR quite recently, and it's about a girlfriend who's trying to cope with the recent loss of her boyfriend who dies in a swimming accident by drowning. And I think it's her coming to terms with that, but I think her ex-boyfriend kind of comes into the picture, and it's like he kind of mixes things up. But with it being a romance contemporary YA, I'm sure that he does end up fixing things and she kind of lives happy ever after, sort of thing. We will see. That's on my TBR this month, so it shouldn't be long until I actually get a proper review and rating of that book. But it sounds interesting, but it's not like, oh my god, that sounds amazing. So I think once again, I'm going to put it in a 3-star. Can you tell I play it safe? When I don't know what to rate things, I tend to just gravitate towards the 3-star rating. And because I don't give them 0.5 ratings anymore, it does tend to be a very static 3-star average rating for me at the minute. Just because for 4 stars it has to be really good, and obviously 5-star has to be like an all-time favourite new book. So most of my books do tend to be under the 3-star radar, whether that's a low 3-star or a high 3-star, it doesn't matter at the end of the day because they're all just rated 3 stars. So yeah. So next book we have is Interment by Amira Hamed, and I've once again tried reading this, but I'm going to cancel that trying to read it once before, because I tried to read it last year when I was in my massive reading slump because I was finishing university. I was in Walt Disney World for the summer. Like, reading just wasn't my priority last year, so I never really got into any decent books as such. So I just kind of read a few books and then put down the majority that I did start to read. So this was unfortunately one of them, and I do really, really want to get to it soon. So this book basically follows a modern day internment camp, and Layla and her family get taken to an internment camp for American Muslim people, and I think it's basically just her like trying to come to terms with all this and living life as an immigrant and a minority. This book has been on my radar for so long now, and I was so excited to purchase it, and it's just been sitting on my shelf, so I'm really hoping I can get to this one soon. I think it might be a 4-star for me, just because of the subject category and What I did read of it back then, I really enjoyed. I just obviously didn't have the motivation and the time to continue reading it. But I do think this one could be a good book for me. So I'm going to put it as a predicted 4 stars. Now, the next book we have, I'm very, very excited for, and that's With a Fire on High by Elizabeth Acevedo. I'm actually currently reading Clap When You Land, and I'm absolutely loving it. So if that's anything to go by, because Clap When You Land is my first Elizabeth Acevedo book, I think With a Fire on High could be a 5 star, just because it's a full-on novella rather than a book written in verse about a young woman who has a young child and she's trying to become a chef. Now that just sounds right up my alley. I am going to put this as a 5 star prediction. It's going up there, guys. My first 5 star prediction of the video. I'm very excited. So yeah, I'm hoping to get to that one either next month or very, very soon after that, because the way Elizabeth Acevedo is currently drawing my attention, I just want to read everything that she puts out. So yeah, I'm excited for that one, and I'm loving Clap When You Land that I'm reading right now. So yeah, the next book we have is The Tattooist of Auschwitz, which is by Heather Morris. The book is basically about concentration camps in World War II. I don't want to know any more than that, because this is one section of history that really, really fascinates me, and I just love consuming information on that period of time. So this book has always been on my radar, but it's not my go-to genre, with it being historical fiction. So I'm always a bit apprehensive to pick it up, and that's why I haven't picked it up yet. But me and India from What India Read have been talking about maybe buddy reading this, because it's on her TBR as well and she hasn't got to it yet. So we're hoping to buddy read it later this year, I think. I'm not sure when, but I think when I do read it, it will be a 4 star read. It's gonna break my heart, I know it. I think I'll be surprised if it hits the 5 stars, just because it isn't my typical genre, but I think I'll still really, really enjoy reading it and learning more about that topic and that time in history. Now, the next book we have is Loveless by Alice Oseman, and Heartstopper series by Alice Oseman is one of my favourite graphic novels, and just one of my favourite series. Has 2 of my favourite characters of all time, Nick and Charlie, in it. The novella Nick and Charlie captured my heart as well. Just anything to do with Nick and Charlie, and the writing of Alice Oseman is just perfection. So if this doesn't get a 5 star from me, I'll be really, really surprised. So it's another 5 star prediction, is Loveless by Alice Oseman. I'm very picky when it comes to 5 stars. I rarely ever rate books I read 5 stars. I think in the 8 months that we've had of 2020, I've only given out like 5 stars. I'm very picky when it comes to 5 stars. So if With a Fire on High and Loveless are 5 stars, I'll be very, very happy. Now, the next one is The Christmasaurus and the Winter Witch by Tom Fletcher. This is the sequel to The Christmasaurus by Tom Fletcher. I gave The Christmasaurus, when I read it, a 5 star, but I read it via audiobook, so Tom Fletcher narrated it. Perfection. He put in songs and he sung the songs, and the whole audiobook experience of that book was just amazing. So I gave it a 5 stars. I haven't reread it as a physical book, although I do own the physical book. But The Christmasaurus and the Winter Witch, like, I feel apprehensive towards, because I did love The Christmasaurus so much. It is a middle grade. It's basically, the first book follows a young boy called William Trundle, who absolutely loves dinosaurs and Christmas. So when the Christmasaurus, a Christmas dinosaur, comes to visit, and they go on magical adventures together around Christmas time. Literally, it gave me goosebumps just thinking about it. It's such a magical read, and I highly recommend it if you want like a Christmassy book that's middle grade. Obviously not for this time of year, because I'm currently sweating in 33 degrees heat. But yeah, I highly recommend it for a good Christmas read. But I am apprehensive on the sequel, just because the first book was so good. I'm worried that the second one won't live up to the hype. So I'm gonna knock it down to a 4 star rather than a 5. Just to be on the safe side. So yeah, that is that book. And then the next book we have is Pretending by Holly Bourne. Now, this is a book that was on my July TBR and I never got round to. It's one of my most recent purchases, And Holly Bourne, I do really enjoy her writing. I've only read her YA stuff before. The Spinster series is one of my favourite series by her, but a couple of other books I've read by her have disappointed me, but they have all been YA. So Pretending is her, like, one of her only adult books that she has. I'm really interested on reading it. Okay, so Pretending basically follows a character called April. April's like a quite unique name, so to have two books in this video with main characters called April is very funny to me. But Pretending basically follows the main character called April, who can't get the perfect guy for her, so she starts to change who she is. And the tagline is, "Why be yourself when you can be perfect?" So I'm really interested in this one, just because I always wished that I could change certain things about myself and all this sort of stuff. So I wonder how this book is going to portray that topic. So I'm really excited and interested on picking this one up, and I hope to get to it soon. Like I say with all these books, I wish to get to it soon. But I don't think it's going to be a 5-star, just because how 50-50 her books are for me in the YA category. I've read about 6 of her books, 3 of them have been 5-star and 3 of them have been like 3 stars. So let's just be safe and say that Pretending might be a 4-star read. The next one is Get a Life, Chloe Brown by Talia Hibbert. This is circulating booktube like wildfire at the minute. Everyone is reading it, everyone is loving it. It basically follows a young woman who has a chronic illness, and she kind of creates this bucket list of things that she wants to do because she feels like she's kind of missing out on some things. I'm really interested in picking this one up because I myself have a chronic illness, and I just kind of want to see what the similarities and differences are between myself and the main character in this book. Everyone is raving about it at the minute. This book has to be a 5-star. It's a YA contemporary. It kind of follows someone who I can see myself as. If this isn't a 5-star, I'll be kind of disappointed. So I'm going to put it at the 5 stars. Oh, not 4 stars, 5 stars. The next book is the one I'm currently reading, which is Clap When You Land by Elizabeth Acevedo. Now, I'm about halfway through this book. I just looked over there because it's on my bed. I'm about halfway through this book, and if all things are gonna stay the way they are, and I've been loving it so far, I'll be surprised if this book doesn't get a 5-star. I am absolutely adoring it. And if you didn't know by now, then 1, you're living under a rock, and 2, this book is about 2 sisters who share the same father but don't know each one exists until their father dies in a plane crash. And they kind of come together over grief, and I am absolutely adoring this book. Elizabeth Acevedo's writing, this book is written in verse, it's just so powerful, and it's just, it's incredible. I've listened to some of the audiobook as well, but I am finding it's really good listening to the audiobook because you truly understand how the story was meant to be told, because Elizabeth Acevedo is narrating it herself, so you really get to know how she wanted the story to be portrayed. Now, I have listened to some of the audiobook and I have read it by myself, and I do personally prefer reading it just on my own because I can read it quicker. I know that kind of sounds a bit irrelevant because surely you want to take in and listen to the author and the creator of the story at their own pace, but I am a quick reader and sometimes audiobooks are a little bit too slow for me. So, and I didn't want to put the audiobook on a faster speed because then it did sound like it was being rushed. So I'm actually preferring reading it just by itself as the physical form. But it was so interesting and so amazing to be able to listen to some of it as an audiobook because of the way that Elizabeth Acevedo just reads her own work. It's just incredible. I'm loving this book. The next book we have is Scar by Alice Broadway, I want to say her name is. Now, this is the 3rd book in a series that I read a couple of years ago now and absolutely adored the first 2 books. But I feel like because it's been such a long time since I read those 2 books, if I want to get to the 3rd book, Scar, I would have to reread the first 2 books. Now, the first book in this series is Ink, and it basically follows a young girl in a community where all the things that you do in your life get tattooed on your body, and when you die you get things created called skin books, where they basically take the skin and form a book so your memories live on. and they don't get forgotten. And it's basically about this young girl growing up in this world, and she wants to become a tattooist herself, but her parents kind of don't allow it. Now, I don't remember really what happened in the first or second book. I just kind of remember the premise. So to read the third book, I'd have to reread the first two, or at least get a very, very good summary somewhere. So it's not kind of on my radar to read right now. So I think if I ever did read it, it would probably be like a 3-star. Just saying it how it is, guys. The next book we have is 10 Blind Dates by Ashley Elston. And this book basically follows a young girl around Christmas time. So I do want to save this book for around Christmas time because it's set on New Year's Eve, I think. And kind of the one thing this main character Sophie wants for Christmas is a boyfriend. So I think her grandma ends up setting her up on loads of blind dates around the Christmas time. And I just think this is going to be a really cute, fun read. I'm not sure whether it's going to be like a new favourite contemporary. So for that reason, I'm going to put it in the 3-star category. So the next one we have is Date Me, Bryson Keller by Kevin Van Way. Sorry, I had to look for it on my bookshelf. This book is about a main character called Bryson who accepts a dare to date the first person that asks him out every week. So that just seems interesting for a book premise, and I'm very excited to read it. I think it's a male. Yeah, I think it's a male because the last line in the blurb says, because brilliant Bryson Keller forgot one thing. He never said it could only be girls. So I think he dates a mixture of girls and guys, and I think he realises that he might be gay, or at least bisexual. I'm not sure exactly on his sexuality, but it definitely is an LGBTQA+ book. So I'm very excited for that one, and I think it might be a 4 stars. I'm really, really excited to get to that one. So it's going in the 4 stars. And then the last book we have is 40 Love by Olivia Dade. Now, this book isn't really spoken about. It's basically an adult romance contemporary book based around tennis, and that just sounds cool in itself. I'm not a fan of tennis myself, but any books surrounding by like sports and stuff I kind of get into. They're quite fun, apart from fence. So yeah, and this apparently has really good fat rep as well, and I haven't read very many books with good fat rep, so I'm excited to read this one. But I'm not sure how I would feel towards it, because obviously this is a new to me author. When I do read it, I've never read any Olivia Dade books before, so that just kind of makes me a bit skeptical because I don't know her writing style, and I kind of don't know how her characters would develop and all that sort of stuff. So I think it might just be a good contemporary, which would leave me feeling like it would be a 3 star. So that's it. Those are my predicted ratings for all these books. When I'll get to all these books, I have no idea, because I don't think it'll be this year. But I think I'm going to get to my predicted 5 stars very soon, with A Fire on High by Elizabeth Acevedo, Loveless by Alice Osman, Get a Life, Chloe Brown by Talia Hibbert, and obviously I'm reading Clap When You Land now. So once I finish my 5-star predicted books, I will come back with you guys with an update on whether they were a 5-star or not. I'm excited. This has made me want to read my physical TBR even more now, because yeah, they just made me really excited to read them all, especially my 5-star predictions, as well as An Absolutely Remarkable Thing by Hank Green, Pretending, and Date Me, Bryson Keller have really all kind of re-sparked my interest on reading them. So yeah, this has been a good video for me, because I've kind of re-sparked my love of some of the books I had on my physical TBR. But yeah, no 1 stars, which is great. A couple of 2, but like I predicted, mostly in the region of 3 and 4 stars, which is fine. That's fine. I'm just excited to read them and see how I actually feel about them. I really, really hope you enjoyed this like fun, quirky mix of popular booktube videos video. I enjoyed doing it. I hope you enjoyed watching it. And let me know if you've read any of these books, what you rated them. If you think I've listed any of the 4-star and 3-star books that you think I would rate 5 stars, let me know in the comments down below. And yeah, I'll see you in my next video. If you like what you saw and like what you heard, please give this video a like and subscribe, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye guys.